Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. When I was in my addiction, it was hard for me to imagine life without alcohol and drugs, in part because whenever I thought about cutting alcohol and drugs out of my life, I was focused on the deprivation aspect of it. I was focused on being deprived of what I perceived as the joy that alcohol and drugs brought me. And it wasn't until I started to think more about the positive aspects of being sober that I started to see a shift in my perception. And Annie Grace talks about this some in the section I want to read today from This Naked Mind. I'll go ahead and read what she says about it, about visualizing what the future is going to be like and the power of what perspective you use to do that. She says, visualizing success always helps. A growing body of research suggests our unconscious minds cannot actually tell the difference between a real experience and a vividly imagined fake experience. So visualize success like being incredibly happy, laughing, and having a great time out with friends while drinking lemonade. You can even spend a few minutes each morning and night imagining the life you want while feeling positive emotions. This inspires success. Get excited about what the future holds. And that really is a good description for where I was at when I first stopped drinking. I was a daily drinker. I had been a daily drinker for over 15 years. I was the kind of drinker that drank in the morning, drank at noon, drank at night, drank whenever I could get my hands on it. I enjoyed being drunk. I didn't enjoy just a nice, pleasant buzz. I liked to be drunk. And so I liked everything about that part of it, the experience, but I was also experiencing terrible illness in my life and emptiness in my emotional being, and there were all these bad things that were really starting to happen that I knew something needed to change. And at one point I realized that I was very attracted to the idea of not having alcohol in my life anymore. And I started to visualize what life would be like without things like hangovers and without the money I was spending on alcohol. I started to visualize what I could do with that money. I started to visualize what it would be like to go to a social situation without worrying about whether or not I was going to make a fool of myself. And I started to visualize what it would be like to wake up the next morning and remember that situation, because I typically would get involved in social situations and either brown or black out halfway through the evening. Once I started visualizing these positive aspects of sobriety, then my whole attitude towards sobriety and towards recovery began to change. And I started to see it as something desirable rather than something that was a burden I was going to have to carry. And all of a sudden, this idea of depriving myself of alcohol and drugs shifted from negative to positive. And it was kind of a magical thing when it happened, because then the elimination of drugs and alcohol from my life didn't become, it changed from being a burden to being a goal. And once I saw that shift happened, there was no stopping me. Once I saw that shift happen, it was full steam ahead. Okay, how are we going to get this done? How am I going to set up a good foundation to make this happen? And indeed, from the very beginning, I saw the positive aspects of leaving behind alcohol. The same thing when I quit all drugs. from the very beginning, these things I visualized as happening started to happen. And the great thing about recovery is they continue to happen. The gifts, the rewards, they keep coming. And a lot of them are the things I visualized. I can now go to a social situation and not worry about being awkward. I can, and if I am awkward, I have a better idea about how to handle it. I don't have to worry about, like I used to, being awkward and using a lot of booze to cope with it, and then ending up becoming really awkward or doing something stupid. And I don't have to worry about waking up and feeling terrible in the morning, both physically and mentally. And for me, a lot of times the mental hangovers were 10 times worse than the physical hangovers. The depression, the shame, the guilt. And I don't wake up like that anymore. And I haven't for a long time, and it feels wonderful. But there's also all of these things that are now happening that are positive that I didn't visualize. And that's the great thing about recovery, is that even the things that you expected do happen if you focus on what you're setting out to do. The things that are promised to you do happen, but all these other great things that you weren't expecting start to happen as well. And so visualization and keeping in mind what is the reality going to be like if I do this. And for me, it was that moment when I stopped thinking of sobriety as an emptiness, when I stopped thinking of sobriety as taking something away, and I started thinking of sobriety as putting something back into my life. That's the moment where things changed, and I started thinking, well, maybe I can do this. In fact, maybe this is what I should be doing. And that's really where I took the first step onto the road of recovery. That's it for today. Hope you have a good one, and I'll be back here tomorrow with more.